We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It's Friday. We're wrapping up another week. It's been a busy one this week. We got some stuff to talk about. Of course, Donnie Trump is getting that much closer to having to foot a $500 million bill, and it's not looking good. We'll talk about that, of course. Um, a lot of things to talk about. I want to say thanks to Old Soul for joining me yesterday. It's always a great show when Old Soul is on. Fact is, I'm lucky. It's always a good show when any listeners come on. I know there's some out there contemplating showing up on the program, and I would suggest give it a try. What can it hurt? Anybody who's ever come on has found out that it's a lot easier than it looks, and we just have a good time. We have a conversation. And Old Soul, it's always great talking to her. Now, tomorrow, Ed will be on the show, and it's a similar situation. I've known him 25 years. We work together on the air. It's a very easy show to do because both of us kind of know how the other one does things, and it makes it a very smooth process when we do the show together. But that will be tomorrow. Starting out this show, of course, we've got plenty to talk about. But as always, we have some emails. So let's get to them. First one starts out, "Hi, Boomer. Just so you know, I had to throw a penalty flag on you yesterday. It was a flagrant foul, so it was a full 15 yards. You were talking about little Petey Navarro, which every time you call him that, I think of the dog on Little Rascals. Well, when I think Petey, I think of Little Rascals too, but that's because we're old motherfuckers. You younger people don't even know what the Little Rascals are. Fortunately, we have a lot of older folks listening, so they get the reference. But when you said he went from the Green Bay sweep to a quarterback sneak right up the middle, that was a clear personal foul. So I threw the penalty flag on the floor. Then I used it to wipe off the coffee that I spilled laughing. You are a piece of work. Best, Garage Door Jeff." Well, not surprising. You're not the first to call me a piece of work. Generally, it's my family, but I guess we're family here now, Jeff, all of us that listen and participate in the Rational Boomer podcast. Yeah, that was a little graphic in a not so direct way, but I think everybody got what I was saying. It was a little tacky, but you know, I'm not the most sophisticated guy in the world, so you got to cut me some slack. Thank you, Garage Door Jeff. I appreciate it. Now, this email I don't quite understand. I don't know if it's a typo or a reference to something I'm not catching, but the email starts out this way. It says Tom and then three exclamation points. Who the fuck is Tom? Anyway, this emailer says, "I just love your page. Whenever I'm feeling a bit unsettled, I go to your account and voila. I feel the same way as you do, that there's no way that he can win. It's just unsettling. Thanks again for all you do, Hillary." Well, Hillary, thank you very much. I'm not sure who Tom is, but I know you're talking about me because we're talking about the page and all of that. I appreciate it. But I am Mike. You can call me Rational or RB, but my name is Mike. I prefer Mike generally. But thank you. And, you know, that's one of the things about doing this Rational Boomer stuff. Probably the most gratifying thing about doing it, other than being cathartic and getting things off my chest, it's nice to hear that people are benefiting from it in some way, calming them down, making them feel better. That wasn't my goal going into this, but you have to understand the reason I do this the way I do it isn't so much to make other people feel better. It's for me to understand better and to make me feel better. I have to feel confident in what I'm saying, and I have to understand how it all works so that I can figure out what's really going to happen. So I benefit myself by doing what I'm doing, and the fact that it benefits other people is very gratifying. So thank you, Hillary. All right, the next one starts out, "Hi, Boomer. I will not be watching Garbage Can Jeff's TikTok." I think he's talking about HVAC Jeff. and talking about that short little debate he and I had on a live. He said, I don't want to give him any credit. I believe this was a ploy to get you banned because you are so truthful and you don't give a flying fuck about what Trump asswipes have to say. Is there any way you can play the Jeff ass kicking on your YouTube channel? P.S. I wrote a previous email about DNA. Maybe I simply missed it when you read it. I thought I would like to know your thoughts about it. Gussie, I'm going to give you a tip about sending me notes. Most of the notes you give me end up on the page where my audio YouTube or audio podcast is. And I don't check that as much as I should. But what I would do, Gussie, you write a lot, and send it directly to my email, rationalboomer@gmail.com. That way I will always see it, and I'm always looking forward to hearing what you have to say. And as far as that Jeff situation, it was really off the cuff. There was nothing really planned, and it's his live. So I don't know if he posts live after he does them. I'm not sure. But he's on forever. If you go to his live, you're going to have to sit through 3 hours to get to any particular point. Jeff trying to get me banned. I don't know. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. Maybe not Jeff, but the other people that were in that live that were trying to ban me. I think some of those folks were. And you know what? When I sat down and I went into this live, I never even thought that it might impact my account. That's how stupid I wasn't thinking right. So after I was dropped from the live, I didn't even try to get back in. I don't think I could have anyway. But yeah, there might have been some nefarious agendas out there for me. That's the one thing I hear from Trumplefucks a lot. Why don't you just stop? Be quiet. Nobody cares what you think. And when I hear that, I'm arrogant enough to think that I'm making some headway and they don't like people that have some common sense actually telling the truth and talking about facts. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I like to think in my mind. Um, but the fact of the matter is I'm not going to stop. They can't stop me. And this is not the time to slow down. This is the time to pour it on and get louder. So I will. All right, this one came on the Rational Boomer podcast page too. It comes from somebody named Lady Cheryl. She says, always good content. I thought at one point there was a GoFundMe set up for Frumpy Dump's legal fees. Has that been rescinded? Thanks for getting the truth out there. No, I think the GoFundMe is still there. I think he got like $1.5 million or something like that. Certainly nothing that's going to even come close to paying off his bond. He's out there begging people right now to help him with the bond. He's probably going through couch cushions, but to no avail. There's going to be no white knight that saves him that I can imagine, unless there's something really fucked up going and it comes from a different country. Then we might look at something, but we can tell that Donald Trump is pretty nervous at this point. It is Friday, and by Monday, he needs to have the bond posted. Otherwise, shit's going downhill. And we know Letitia James doesn't have a lot of confidence in Donald Trump coming up with his money because, and we'll talk about this later in the show, but Letitia James has already filed judgments in Westchester County. It's against a golf club that Donald Trump owns and a residence. It's called Seven Springs or something like that. So she's already put down these judgments and she's going to hit the ground running on Monday if he hasn't posted his bond. All right. Thank you very much, Lady Cheryl. I appreciate it. Next one starts out, hi, Mike. How are you today? I'm good. I'm a Gen X Canadian who started listening to your podcast about 6 months ago, and I really enjoy listening to you and your guest. I wish everyone could be rational like you. An old soul is an amazing person. I second that. We have many Trumplafucks on this side of the border also, and I can tell you they are not the sharpest tools in the shed. Unfortunately, it's impossible to have an intelligent debate with most of them because everything is a conspiracy to them, and I quickly see they'll never be reasoned with. My wife and I just recently spent a few days in Knoxville, Tennessee to visit some friends of ours. We visited some great breweries where we meet with our friends and their friends. My wife warned me not to bring up politics, so I kept it very simple. A few of them brought up politics, and most of them basically said they had more money when Trump was president and Democrats will raise your taxes. It's been drilled in their heads, and that's what they believe. We also attend the St. Patrick's Day parade in Knoxville and witness some Trumplafucks booing the Biden-Harris float when it went by. I would like to know why the Trumplafucks always say the Democrats are wrecking the country. What am I missing? Are they really that gullible? Dirty Diaper Don is exactly the person I try not to be in life. Trump is an absolute fool. He is an arrogant, self-centered, and mentally ill. If he didn't wake up tomorrow, I would probably celebrate. Republicans are really the ones out of touch with the rest of the world. I even heard some Republicans say they should build a northern wall. Anyway, I can't wait till you guys flush that orange turd down the toilet. He is dividing Americans and Canadians with hate, and it's hurting everyone. Keep up the good work. Your Canadian friend, Renee. Thank you, Renee. I appreciate that. There really is no debating these people. These people are too close minded, too simple minded, and you can't convince them of anything. I can sit with people like HVAC Jeff or whoever the hell else, lay out facts, and they just give you a blank stare. They either don't want to hear the facts and then they try to shut you down, like what happened on that live with HVAC Jeff, or they just spin it or they just ignore it. And since there's really no way to argue with them, what's the point? I'm getting some interesting responses from people that were Trump fans, but had a little bit of intellect. I think I've told this before. I've known some people who in my past life were friends and were fairly intelligent folks. And then when this Trump clown show came around, they jumped on that fucking bandwagon and we argued about it quite frequently. Now, these are brighter folks. They can see the writing on the wall. They can see what's down the road for Donald Trump and those people that follow them. I have a friend who was a former business partner. I went to see him and I said, "Hey, you should come on the podcast sometime. You're a Trump fan. I'm not. We're friends, so we can do this civilly and it should be a good show." And he just looked at me and he says, I don't really talk about politics anymore. I'm too busy at work. I don't talk about politics. Yeah, motherfucker, you talk about politics. You won't shut up about politics. You're just smart enough to know you're losing. And instead of backing off, and instead of doubling down, you're just going to avoid it. And that's where this is headed. The intelligent ones, relatively speaking, that supported Donald Trump, they'll just kind of fade back into the woodwork, quit talking about it because they don't want to admit they're wrong and they don't want to wade into an argument that they can't win. You're still going to have 25% of the country doubling and tripling down and never believing anything and solidly supporting Donald Trump forever. Fortunately, that's a small enough of a group of people where they won't have any real impact on the election. In fact, they will end up hurting the Republican Party. So good luck. I mean, I've said this from the beginning. What we really can only hope to have happen is that we send them back under their rocks. These racists, these misogynists, these anti-Semites, these dumb fuck Trumplafucks, they didn't just come to life when Donald Trump came around. They'd always been there, but they were quiet because if they stuck their head out, somebody might chop it off if they said something racist. Donald Trump comes along, he makes it okay, cool again to be a racist. And these people felt free to start screaming about it. And as long as Donald Trump made it okay, they were going to keep doing it. But when Donald Trump gets shut down and put in jail or whatever the fuck he has happened to him, they're going to be quiet. They're not going to admit they're wrong. They're going to be quiet. And hopefully they'll go back under their rocks. And the only thing we can hope to do is make sure they don't come the fuck back out. We can't fix these people. They are mentally twisted and not too bright, and you're not going to talk them out of it. You're not going to negotiate or convince them out of what they believe. They're just going to believe what they believe. The best thing we can hope for is taking them out of the narrative and making them inconsequential in this country again. All right, the next email says, "Hey, Mike, have you been watching Lawrence O'Donnell this evening on MSNBC? I find him extremely intelligent and knowledgeable. I do too. He's one of the people I like the best. He's not a newsman by trade. He'd worked in politics and communications and such. He's an actor. He's a screenwriter too. But he is very bright and he has some interesting insights to the things that are happening, insights that I tend to agree with. He makes a lot of sense to me. He was interviewing someone who described the luxury resort trips that federal and possibly some appellate conservative judges are attending for free and learning about software that is designed to show them how to cherry pick history and interpretation of the law to suit their needs and produce catered results. It shocked and saddened me to hear that. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. It makes me think that there's a good reason to not trust our legal system. I thought that judges were supposed to be unbiased, that they were supposed to look at both sides and interpret the law as written and as it applies to the situation. Now they're being trained what to say and how to create the right way to present it. And the wealthy conservatives get the desired outcomes and control. It is certainly an incentive to stay the hell out of the court system. Wanted to thank you for a couple of things, Mike. Number one, I noticed and appreciated you for changing your verbiage when talking about the services that Old Soul helps her clients receive. It makes a big difference to me because it is healthcare. And unfortunately, I think the word abortion has become like a bomb going off in people's heads. The termination of a pregnancy can be for many reasons and should never become a life-threatening issue in this country when safe, proven medical care is available. And decisions made should always be between a patient and their doctor. Thank you for also shutting down Tommy Mr. Wordsmith. Good God, how obnoxious. As a manager, I would point out to people when they used 10 words to get their point across when they could have used 3. An exaggeration on the numbers, I'm sure, just to be able to get their message across. That has stuck with me, and I think it's good advice. Keep it fucking simple. I added the fucking, by the way. Have a great weekend. Always look forward to hearing your thoughts. Judy, Crazy Cat Mom, Portland, Oregon. P.S. Please tell Old Soul that she is an inspiration. Her new mission to inform inmates that they have the right to vote is incredibly important. I look forward to hearing that she is visiting women's facilities as well. I am sure she knows that they are very underserved. The Yiddish word for Old Soul is mensch. It means to lead by example, to teach. That's what she does. Thank you, Old Soul. And again, that's Judy Crazy Cat Mom from Portland, Oregon. And Judy, thank you very much for your insights. You always offer some things that are valuable to us when you send your emails. And as I've told others, I'll tell you, if you want to come on the show and talk and give people a direct connection, you're more than welcome to do that. In terms of what you said about the court system, I've said this before and I will say it again. Our judicial system is in trouble. It's not as clean and legitimate as we would hope. And it starts at the Supreme Court. What we have going on in the Supreme Court is a mess. And because we have that going on in the Supreme Court, it puts democracy at risk. Even after Donald Trump is out of the way and the Republicans are eradicated from politics, power politics anyway, this is still a problem. We have people making decisions based on friends, based on money, based on personal agendas, which is exactly the opposite of what a judge should do. This is going on in the Supreme Court and further down the road in the federal courts and even in state courts. But we're looking at Aileen Cannon down in Florida or Judge McAfee in Georgia. Their personal agendas are impacting how they make decisions, and that just should not be the case. They should make the decision based on rule of law. That should be an easy deal for them, but they can't help themselves. They are sucked in through greed. People with money come in and say, hey, how about you just give us an edge here? Help us out. The moment they decide to do that, that is the demise of the judicial system. And that's why I've said when the Democrats finally take over in the House and the Senate and in the Oval Office, we have to codify Roe v. Wade, and we've got to straighten out this judicial system by starting first with the Supreme Court. We need to straighten out the Supreme Court. If the only option is to expand it, then fucking expand it. But these three clowns, the three worst that are conservatives, and they aren't even qualified to be judges, need to be shut down or at the very least marginalized. We could look at impeaching them, but that's a long process, and we'll be still going through the same bullshit while that process is going on. It's also a process to expand the court, but that seems like the most likely resolution to this thing. I'm not an expert on this. I don't know, but we do have to do something to get it fixed. Even after the Republicans are gone and Donald Trump is in jail or dead or whatever, that is still going to pose a lot of problems for us in this country, and we need to address it ASAP. And hopefully they will. Like I've told you, once we get rid of the Republicans and Donnie Trump, our job is not even close to over. We still have to keep the pressure on. We have to let these people know, whether they be Democrats or Republicans, that we're here, we're paying attention, and we're not fucking having it. We got to keep doing that. I know there's people out there that say you should never say anything bad about Democrats or not hold them accountable. And the problem I have with that is that if we let the Democrats do whatever they want once they have power, we are no better than the Republicans. This is our team. This is our club. We will let them do whatever, and we'll never fight against them. As I've said before, this country will tell us that it's Democrats against Republicans. And I'm telling you, it's not Democrats versus Republicans. That's just the distraction. If you look at the history and you look at the Democrats and the Republicans, you know that it's them, those supposed elites that make all the decisions for us. It's them against us. And it's because we've given away all our power. And we did that by decades of being apathetic. Well, the government knows how to handle it. Just let them do it. We assume that they're doing the right thing. But with the onset of Donald Trump, we've come to realize that they aren't always doing the right thing. Certainly not the right thing for us. So we got to stay on them, keep the pressure on, and push them to make the decisions they're supposed to, as opposed to what's expedient to them or what's profitable to them. Because we have that problem on the Democratic side as well as the Republican side. Now, make no mistake, the Republicans are the dumpster fire. They are the worst of the two at this point. But if we really want to truly fix this country, we got to fix the whole bunch of them. And once we get through this election in November, our jobs will still be as intense. It may be just pointed a different direction. It may not be as contentious either, because The Republicans are fucking absolute horrific human beings. They're trying to overturn elections and overthrow the government. Democrats won't do that, so we don't have to get that crazy about it. But we still need to fine tune what's going on in Washington, D.C., and whether they be Democrats or Republicans, we got to make sure they're on fucking point. All right. New York Attorney General Letitia James. I told you this. Letitia James is going to hit the ground running on Monday. I don't think she's too confident that Donald Trump will come up with $500 million for the bond on Monday. So she's already starting the gears in motion. Letitia James has filed a judgment with the Westchester County Clerk's Office over fraud committed by Donald Trump, allowing her office to seize local properties from the purported billionaire and real estate developer if he cannot pay $464 million on Monday. The Attorney General filed the judgment March 6th, according to the county clerk's website. Filing the judgment with the county clerk's office is the first step that the Attorney General would take to impose liens and seize properties from a delinquent debtor. Now, Trump properties in the suburban county just north of New York City include Trump National Golf Club, Westchester, and the 212-acre Seven Springs development. On February 16th, the New York court found in civil trial that Trump had committed financial fraud. We know that. Trump has since appealed the decision, but in the meantime, he must pay the bond on the penalty, either with his own cash or with a loan through a bond company. Now, some people think that he can appeal it if he doesn't post the bond. I know that's what I thought. And then I'm hearing from other people that, oh, yeah, he can still appeal it. He just can't stop Letitia James from starting the process to seizing properties, putting liens on properties, and ultimately liquidating them. So Trump must come up with the money by Monday. So far, he's proved that he can't do it. He said as much. He says, I can't do that. He has asked the court to either waive or lower the bond amount he must pay, a request that the Attorney General's office has in turn asked the county to deny. Attempts to obtain a bond proved a practical impossibility after 30 bond companies rejected it. Trump's request, the former president argued earlier this week in a filing seeking the penalty to be waived or lowered to $100 million. In a reply Wednesday, the Attorney General's office rejected Trump's claims as rooted in false assumptions and based on unreliable testimony. Now, there's some things he could have done originally when this decision was made, like immediately turning over deeds to property. That would kind of hold things off a little bit. But of course, Donald Trump and his lawyers weren't bright enough to do that. So now they're in this mess. There is a motion for them to stay the Attorney General from seizing properties or to make it a smaller amount. I can't imagine they're going to do that. And if they're going to do that, they're going to have to come back with a decision, I would suspect, today, because they aren't going to come back with it over the weekend, and Monday is D-Day. So we'll see what they do. I'm hoping against hope that that the court doesn't bend for Donald Trump. He's not worthy of any preferential treatment. He's gotten his share up to this point, and we don't need to see him get any more. But regardless, he's pretty much done now. Even if he comes up with the money to post the bond, now he's in hock to somebody else. There's $500 million or more sitting there that he can't touch, and he's going to have to appeal, and he's going to lose the appeal. And when he loses the appeals, they will take the money anyway. And whoever he borrowed the money from will be going after his shit. Donald Trump is going to lose some shit. Either way it goes. No way he wins an appeal, and no way he's going to come up with $500 million of his own accord. He's going to need some help. And I just don't see anybody who is there with any reason to help him, because they are most certainly going to lose the money in losing the appeal. And then whoever borrows Donald Trump the money is going to have to trust him to pay them back. Anybody trust him with $2, let alone $500 million? No, you're never going to get your money back if you loan it to Donald Trump. If you do, you deserve what you get. The lesson should have been learned. You should have seen what's going on. And if you get burned by Donald Trump, you fucking deserve it. Absolutely fucking deserve it. So the clock is ticking right now. We'll know Monday what's going to happen, maybe before then, if the court comes back and gives him some leeway, or somehow Donald Trump comes up with the money for the bond. Regardless of what happens, this doesn't get better for Donald Trump. This hamstrings him, hogties him, forces him not to be able to do the things he wants to do. And his money problems aren't just limited to this bond issue. He's got tens of millions of dollars in legal fees. I think he's paid up to $80 million at this point. And between now and November, he's going to have at least that much. Where's he going to get the $80 million? Certainly not from fundraising. The data on fundraising says that Joe Biden has collected twice as much as Donald Trump has. Twice as much as Donald Trump has in the last 3 or 4 months. It's not even close. Donald Trump's having trouble fundraising. And it's having an impact on his campaign. Since Super Tuesday, Joe Biden's been to 8 or 9 states. Since Super Tuesday, Donald Trump's been to 2 states. He's supposed to have a rally going on in Arizona, but apparently they have canceled that because he simply can't afford it. This is what I've said before. Somebody's taking all of his money. He's going on trial for criminal charges. He's going to get convicted. He's got to pay tens of millions of dollars in legal fees. He's got to somehow live his lifestyle on top of it. And then he's got to figure out a way to come up with the money and the time to campaign for the presidency. It's not possible. It's overwhelming. Donald Trump can't juggle all this shit, and he's not going to juggle all this shit. So we'll watch and see. It's going to be fun watching the demise of Dirty Diaper Donnie Trump. All right, we will take a quick break, and we will be right back. Well, this is an interesting but not a surprising story. We all saw it coming. Despite previous claims that the Republican National Committee, the RNC, would not be paying Donald Trump's various legal bills, an invitation to a Palm Beach, Florida fundraiser next month shows that Save America Committee Trump has been using for that purpose will in fact be a recipient of donor money. Interesting. Now the RNC is saying, yeah, we will help Donnie with his legal fees. I wonder what changed. Why would they change? Because his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, is the current co-chair. They come in, they fire everybody. She says they're committed to giving all the money to Donald Trump. And I think this is incredible. This is incredible. But wait till you hear this story. I have a feeling there's not going to be a big turnout to this fundraiser. The fundraiser for a joint committee called Trump 47 is to be held on April 6th, according to an invitation obtained by HuffPost, with a chairman level donation set. Wait for it. $814,000, $814,600 per person, not per couple. And a host level is $250,000 for dinner. per person. Here's somebody who's fucking desperate. Hey, come have dinner with us. It's only going to cost you $1.7 million if you bring your wife. A Tuesday filing with the Federal Election Commission states that Trump 47 raises money for the Trump campaign, as well as Save America, the Republican National Committee, and 40 state level Republican committees. Michael Steele, former RNC chair, said, I told you so. Why do folks still believe the BS coming from Trump, the RNC, or his campaign when it comes to RNC donor money? The RNC will absolutely find ways to pay his bills because otherwise, Laura Trump, co-chair, won't be doing her job for her expert political acumen or the state party operations she's run. Laura Trump is the former president's daughter-in-law. She was installed as the RNC chair, of course, co-chair, last month. Now, the invitation does not state how much of each donation would go to each entity, and the Trump campaign did not respond to HuffPost's questions. However, a supplementary document obtained by the Associated Press states that of each donation, the first $6,600 will go to the Trump campaign, the next $5,000 to Save America, and the rest to the RNC and the various state primaries. Now, under that formula, a $15,000 donation to Trump 47 would see 44% of it go to Trump's campaign, 33% to Save America, and the remaining 23% go to the RNC and state committees. Much larger donations, however, would see most of the money going to the national and state parties, as the $6,600 and $5,000 limits are legal maximums. Now, top Trump aide Chris LaCivita earlier this month told the AP that no RNC money would be spent on Trump's legal fees. Well, that's changed. The allocation could result in many tens of millions of dollars of donor money being diverted to an entity that has primarily paid Trump's bills. I don't recall the RNC paying legal bills for any other previous candidates. Now, Trump's current fundraising operation sends 90 cents of each dollar it raises to his campaign and gives 10% or 10 cents from every dollar to Save America. The new formula for Trump 47 potentially could send far more money to Save America, which, because it's regulated as a different kind of committee from Trump 47, can effectively be used as Trump's personal slush fund, paying legal bills. Now, last year, Trump spent $54.2 million in political contributions, most of it from his army of small dollar donors, many of them retirees, to pay his lawyers, according to Huffington Post analysis of FEC filings. And there's some question as to whether or not that is legal. Now, this was said by Mac Stepanovich, longtime Republican consultant in Florida. Every time I think my visceral loathing of Donald Trump and my utter contempt for all those who enable and support him may be irrational, something like this happens to reassure me. Yeah, what Donald Trump is trying to do here is not surprising, but it is awful. It's not a good precedent to set with the RNC or for this country. Now, whose followers, of course, attacked the Capitol in 2021, he's got 2 criminal cases resulting from his actions leading up to that day. And that's a big problem for him. Now, we know there's a trial going on in New York starting mid-April, which is going to be problematic. A federal indictment could go to trial as early as late August, depending on the timing of the Supreme Court ruling on his claim that he's immune from prosecution. So he's going to need some fucking money. He's going to need some legal dollars. And it's all been kind of waning as of late. The RNC doesn't have a lot of money in the first place, but Donald Trump, as I've told you, he doesn't want his share of the money. He wants all the money. And that's what's going to happen with the RNC. The vast majority of the money that comes in will go to Donald Trump, and that will leave all the down ballot candidates and all the things that the RNC does left out in the cold. And you know what? I'm cool with that, because no matter how much Donald Trump spends on legal fees, he's not getting out of this. He's not getting away with anything. He will be convicted of felony charges, a lot of them. So please just take as much money as you can, send it to Donald Trump, and let him pour it into his legal fees, because it's all literally going down the toilet. And the Republicans just sit there and let him do it. Once election is over and Donald Trump is hobbled and not important and not consequential anymore in the Republican Party, we're going to see a bunch of these fucks standing around going, what the fuck happened? Well, this is something we've seen for 4 or 5 years. But for whatever reason, the Republican Party hasn't been able to grasp it, and they continue to support a losing cause, that being Donald Trump. But for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like they'll realize that they made a bad move until after the election, when Donald Trump is done. There are still people out there that think Donald Trump has a chance of winning the election. I was talking to somebody earlier today. They are a Biden fan, but they are still concerned about Donald Trump winning the election in November. And I keep telling people it's just not possible. Logic doesn't tell you it's possible. And I'll state it one more time. I know I've said it before, but for those people that still have this inkling that Donald Trump has a chance to win in November, understand this. Donald Trump lost in 2020 by 7 million votes and quite a number of electoral votes. Try to figure out what he's done since that time to make up that 7 million and get more. What's he done to improve his lot? Nothing. Everything that's happened to Donald Trump has hurt him in support and in voters. In the primaries, Donald Trump is currently running unopposed, and even still, he's only getting 50 or 60% of the vote, of the Republican vote. Joe Biden's getting 85 to 95%. The difference here is that Joe Biden has the Democratic Party unified behind him. Donald Trump does not. We know that as much as 25% of the Republican Party will not vote for Donald Trump. If 25% of the Republican Party doesn't vote for Donald Trump, he cannot win. He needs all the Republican Party and some of the independents to win. He's already lost the independents, and he's lost some Republicans. Then there's a matter of money. Donald Trump, as I said earlier, is having trouble fundraising. He's running at 50% of Joe Biden. That's not good news for him. These people that he's grifting from, these small donors, are getting a little fatigued by sending him money over and over again. Donald Trump thinks it's a bottomless well, and it's not. These people don't have enough money to keep supporting this legally corrupt fuck. They're going to get tired of it. And we're seeing the signs of that now with his fundraising starting to dwindle. The other thing is, we know that if he is convicted of a crime, that changes everything in terms of voters, and it swings everything pretty solidly over to Joe Biden. Donald Trump will be going on trial in mid-April. He's been charged with 34 felony charges. He will most certainly get convicted of some of them. And when he does, it's fucking over. He'll be in court virtually every day. So when is he going to have time to campaign? And even if he had time to campaign, we're finding out now he's having to cancel rallies because he doesn't have the money to do it. So when you factor in all those things, please tell me, how he's going to win. He has every possible bad thing working against him, and still people think he's going to win. Common sense and logic doesn't tell you that. The only reason people are afraid Donald Trump will win, it's emotional and it's fear. Let that shit go. Let that shit go. That shit doesn't matter. You gain nothing by being fearful and worrying about something you can't control. Focus on those things you know as a fact and trust the facts to work in your favor. All right. A one-time White House valet for Donald Trump told House investigators that the former president threatened Vice President Mike Pence on January 6th, and his way of dealing with documents was to throw them on the floor. This is newly released records. This new perspective inside the Trump administration appears in the January 6 Select Committee's transcribed interview with a White House staffer who was near the former president on the historic day when rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol, Representative Barry Loudermilk announced Thursday. Now, the heavily redacted transcripts show House members questioning the valet about a phone call Trump placed to Pence at 11:20 a.m. Interviewer asked, "What do you remember?" Midway through a partially redacted answer, the valet says, "Mike, this is a political career killer if you do this. Do what's right." This is what Donald Trump said to Mike Pence. Another question follows. Do you know what the president was referring to? Did he explain to the vice president in the call? Valet says, "That's all I heard." More questions and answers have been redacted, but the valet testifies he never heard Trump call Pence a pussy or a wimp, as has been reported by the New York Times. But the valet does admit Trump seemed troubled by the call. That's not all the information that we have on it from the J6 committee. That hasn't come out yet. But as I've told you before, as we get more and more evidence, I think we are going to be surprised about how bad it truly is. I mean, we look at the evidence we do know, and it's bad. But I think there's things that are far worse as far as what Donald Trump did or said, and the evidence of the wrongdoing and the corruption and criminality. Over the next 6 months, we are going to see a lot of shit. And it's not going to be pretty. And it's certainly not going to be helpful to Donald Trump. All right, of course, we have this hearing going on, this investigation into the Biden crime family and how he took a bribe, despite of the fact that there's no evidence. The witnesses he has are both in jail and appear to be assets of Russia and also China. It makes you question whether or not you're on the right track, I would think. Now, Representative Eric Swalwell took a brutal swipe at Chairman Jim Jordan in a House Judiciary Committee, a hearing Thursday when the topic of transgender women using women's locker rooms arose. Now, Representative Harriet Hageman, she's a Republican from Wyoming, said she was concerned about some athletes being forced to undress in front of men who are in the locker room. There are biological differences between girls and boys, regardless of what someone may claim that they are, Hageman said. Now, after Hageman spoke, Jordan recognized Swalwell. And Swalwell said this: "I guess it's a good thing that some folks on the other side are now interested in what happens in a locker room, and we're not going to look the other way." Okay, I'll accept that, Swalwell said. And of course, he was referencing Jim Jordan and his looking away when there were sexual assaults going on at Ohio State. We know the allegations have swirled for years that Jordan looked the other way when team doctor Richard Strauss molested Ohio State University wrestlers in the locker rooms when he was assistance coach there more than 20 years ago. Jordan has consistently denied knowing about any abuse under his leadership, but we know that's bullshit because witnesses have come forward and said he knew. Now, NBC News reported in 2018, 3 former wrestlers told NBC News that it was common knowledge that Strauss showered regularly with the students and inappropriately touched them during the appointments, and said it would have been impossible for Jordan to be unaware. One wrestler said he told Jordan directly about the abuse. Now, toward the end of his time during the hearing, Swalwell asked over and over how Republicans plan to enforce gender checks in locker rooms. He says, so who's enforcing it? Is Mr. Jordan enforcing it? Mr. Gates enforcing it? Mr. Biggs? Who's enforcing this on-demand gender check? Swalwell asked. You didn't put that into the bill. Seems a little creepy that we don't know who's going to be determining genders here. It's kind of creepy. Kind of creepy that you're setting up on-demand gender checks. Hageman said, are you calling me creepy? And he said, I'm saying it's creepy that you're setting up an on-demand gender check and you won't tell how you're going to enforce it, Swalwell said. This is what I love about these hearings. Raskin, Moskowitz, Swalwell, all these people just tee up on these fuckers and embarrass them every time. And they don't even blink. It's as if they don't even understand what's going on. They get embarrassed constantly, and they constantly have these hearings in public so they can get embarrassed in public. I think they have a masochism kink or something. I don't know what the fuck it is, but they keep doing it over and over again. I suppose it's because Donald Trump told them to, and they couldn't possibly deny Donald Trump any ass that he has. They should, but they don't have the courage. Now, a symbolic Republican budget proposal introduced this week includes, and I say symbolic, I don't want you to worry about this because it's not going to happen. And it just goes to what I was saying before. It's like the Republicans are trying to sink themselves in the upcoming election. But, we have to deal with the budget bill and the shutdowns and all this stuff. So the Republicans come out with a symbolic budget proposal. And in their proposal this week includes cuts to future Social Security retirement benefits, despite the fact that former President Donald Trump's pledge to leave the program untouched. The Republican Study Committee, a group encompassing a majority of GOP House members, put out a budget outline on Wednesday calling for spending reductions in Social Security and Medicare. Now, the proposal calls for modest changes to Social Security benefits for individuals who are not near retirement, according to a one-paragraph summary in the study the committee's outlined. It would also make modest adjustments to the retirement age for future retirees to account for increases in life expectancy, the summary says, but they don't offer any specifics. Now, Joe Biden trashed the proposal in a Thursday statement. The Republican Study Committee budget shows what Republicans value, Biden said. This extreme budget cut will cut Medicare, Social Security, and the Affordable Care Act. It endorses a national abortion ban. The current eligibility for full Social Security benefits is 67 for anyone born after 59. Increasing the retirement age amounts to reducing benefits for future retirees, though Republicans stress that proposal wouldn't affect anyone currently nearing the retirement. No, it won't affect me. It may not affect you, but it will affect our kids, and it still pisses me off, and I will still fight against it, even though I don't think it's something that we have to worry about. It's not something that's going to be done. They just want to stand up and make their point, which is silly. Because if you want to talk badly and want to cut Medicare and Social Security, that's a fucking election killer. That affects virtually everybody in this country. I mean, you think overturning Roe v. Wade fucked you up? This will fuck you up even more. Now, Republican Study Committee Chair Kevin Hern, a Republican, said Thursday he believed Trump agreed with the RSC's position. Well, no, he didn't. He said just the opposite. Fact is, whenever you ask Donald Trump, chances are he's going to say something different anyway. So who knows what the fuck he believes? And who cares? He's not going to be president. I think what you're hearing President Trump say is exactly what we are saying, because we're not going to do anything to harm anybody that's near retirement or in retirement, Hearn told reporters. That's well and good, and that's fine for me and people of my age range, but you're still going to hurt somebody. Are you going to bring down how much of a deduction they're going to take from Social Security? You're still going to be taking the same amount of money, probably more so, because younger people will be making more and more money with inflation and all this stuff, but you want to cut their benefits. Even if I'm long dead and my kids are just thinking about taking Social Security, I don't want that to happen. That's once again the elites in government taking away from the middle class just to buoy the fucking wealthy. That's a problem. That shit's going to stop. And when the Republicans lose the Senate, the House, and the presidency, that whole concept will be thrown in the wastebasket. It's not going to happen. That would be the most ridiculous thing and the craziest thing to happen in this country. Anybody who signs on that might as well give up the business of politics, because nobody will ever vote for them again. Medicare and Social Security isn't just a Democratic thing. There are a lot of Republicans just surviving on what little Social Security they have now. And if you think they're not going to be pissed, if you think that they finally won't wake up when that happens, you're mistaken. You take people's money away, you got problems. Now, though the RSC's budget is not legislation, but just a theoretical framework designed to show that Republicans actually do care about balancing a budget, a similar proposal in last year's outline became a political flashpoint in actual budget negotiations between Biden and then Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Democrats repeatedly pointed to the RSC's proposal as evidence that Republicans want to cut Social Security benefits. And McCarthy did not disown that idea until Trump said that under no circumstances should Republicans vote to cut a single penny from Medicare or Social Security. But you see what they've done here. They've just given the Democrats another talking point. Don't vote Republican because they want to cut your Medicare and Social Security. You almost don't even have to say anything more. That will cost you the election. Oh, and they're also the people that overturned Roe v. Wade. They're also the people that are under criminal investigation. It's like they're giving away the election in November. Only the stupid could possibly say, yeah, I'm on board with that. And fortunately for Donald Trump, he's got a base of 25% that are stupid, and they'll get on board even if it's working against their own best interest. They're too stupid. Fortunately, there's not enough of them to impact the election. Now, last week, in response to a question about whether he still opposed cutting so-called entitlement programs, Trump seemed to go off message saying there's a lot you can do in terms of entitlements, in terms of cutting through. He offered no specifics. Well, he never offers specifics. No Trump-la-fuck does, because they can't speak to facts. They don't know anything about truth. It's like when I talked to HVAC Jeff. He made a lot of statements, but he never backed it up with any sources or truth or facts or anything. And he thinks he's doing something. But that's a disease that's running rampant through the Republican Party, from Donald Trump all the way down. They're just trying to talk a good game, hoping against hope that they will get some votes out of it. But in the process, they're losing votes, and they don't even fucking realize it. The White House, for its part, put out a symbolic budget this week that would reduce federal deficits mainly by increasing taxes. The RSC's budget, as well as a more official budget resolution by the House Budget Committee, theoretically balance federal spending and revenue solely by cutting spending instead of touching Social Security or Medicare. The House Budget Committee's plan would establish a special commission to come up with changes to the popular programs. None of the budget blueprints stand a chance of becoming law, as Congress for years has funded government operations through through ad hoc agreements hashed out at the last minute before a shutdown. And of course, it is March 22nd, and there is no shutdown. They will always come up at the last minute to figure something out, which they did. If the Republicans were to allow the shutdown, it would devastate them, even more so than they've already been devastated. But they'll come out and say these things just to make it look like they're tough or they're doubling down. But what they don't realize is they're costing themselves elections. And they're contradicting Donald Trump, their Lord and Savior, which I find kind of interesting. Now, Donald Trump is facing mounting financial difficulties in his campaign, as I mentioned earlier, to the point where he is reportedly being forced to triage which states he can afford to hold rallies in. Now, according to a CNN report, Trump was planning to hold a rally in Arizona last weekend on the same day he rallied in Ohio to support his endorsed Senate candidate, Bernie Moreno, but he backed out at the last minute. Now, on Wednesday, Biden was in Arizona to announce $8.5 billion going toward a new Intel chip processing plant outside Phoenix, returning to a state he visited twice in the second half of last year. Now, Trump had been looking at a trip to the state, which went for Biden by just 10,457 votes in 2020. It was the same day as his Ohio rally, but those plans were scrapped after clinching the presidential nomination, with two sources citing a desire to save money and attend more politically advantageous events in Ohio rally for Moreno. So you folks in Arizona, you hear that, right? You're not important to Donald Trump. In spite of the fact that he lost in Arizona by a slim margin, he doesn't think it's important. He either doesn't have the money or he doesn't care. Either way, that's pretty fucked up by any standards. So we'll see how things go with Donald Trump, but his financial situation isn't going to get any better. It's just going to get worse. Now, Judge Aileen Cannon, the district court judge down in Florida, has been drawing the bad kind of attention since entering the judicial spotlight. And now it seems staffers are putting their own resumes first. It's starting to seem like that people are realizing that Aileen Cannon is not long for this case and maybe not long for the court. Above the Law co-founder David Latt wrote Thursday on his Substack that two of her clerks recently resigned. Clerks typically focus on writing and research for judges. He cited a Tuesday New York Times article that addressed the slow pace of Cannon's court. She has done herself no favors by allowing a logjam of unresolved issues to build up on her docket, the report stated. I have an idea of at least one factor behind the delays. Judge Cannon has had at least two law clerks quit on her, according to multiple sources, including individuals who serve in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, where she sits. Now, the thing about it is that those jobs are kind of nice jobs. People don't get those jobs and quit unless they're going on to start their careers. But clearly they see some things going awry with Judge Aileen Cannon, and they're doing the smart thing, trying to separate themselves from what is going to be an ultimate crash for that court and for Aileen Cannon. They don't want to be part of it, and I can understand that. He explained that a federal district court judge like Cannon typically hires 2 or 3 clerks annually. So when 2 quit, it significantly cuts her staff. Now, he also noted it's highly unusual for a clerk to quit because the job only lasts a year and is so valuable on the resume. Over the past few days, I've sent multiple emails to the Public Information Office of the Southern District of Florida and to Judge Cannon's chambers, requesting comments on reports that at least 2 of her clerks have departed before the scheduled end of their clerkship. I have received read receipts, but no responses, even though, in my experience, subjects are eager to warn off bad information, for which I'm always grateful. He noted that a clerk resigning causes an extremely unpleasant situation. Even if clerks who leave get replaced immediately, which doesn't always happen, especially if clerks quit on short notice or the judge is too busy to focus on hiring, successor clerks need to get up to speed on both chambers' procedures and the substances of the case. It's very time consuming, especially in complex cases like the Trump classified case. He wrote, being understaffed would make Cannon's logjam less surprising. Now, in a series of updates, the reporter said that he discovered one clerk who had been there for 2 years quit in 2023 after having a child. Another clerk, however, quit for a reason that remains unclear, and law school classmates have been buzzing about the news. One clerk left in October of 2023, and another left in December of 2023. In another update, the reporter said Cannon has 3 clerks and 1 temporary. So there's something going on there, and people aren't liking what they're seeing. Even though these are cherry jobs, they don't want to be associated with what's going on there. You don't see them quit in the middle of their term. But clearly, these folks couldn't get out fast enough. And that may be a sign of what's to come with Aileen Cannon. They don't want to be part of the kind of court that this woman is running, and they don't want any of the dirt to be spilled on them, because there will be some. And Aileen Cannon will not do well when this is all said and done. I mean, think about that. If you got a resume and say, I was a district court clerk, well, that's nice. Who were you a clerk for? Judge Aileen Cannon. Well, fuck me running. Yeah, that's not a good look. And it's not something that's going to benefit them. They're probably pissed off that they have it on their resume, even for as short as they've had it. They may try to just keep it off the resume. So some shit's going on down in Florida. I think Jack Smith is getting to the point where he's had enough, and hopefully we'll get something done with Judge Aileen Cannon. All right, we are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for spending the time to join us. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.